Fire, friend and foe. Fire is both useful and dangerous. What is fire? How did we discover it? How do we control it? Early man didn't know what fire was, but he must have seen the damage it could cause. He must have watched lightning and volcanoes long before he began to use fire himself. Fire was powerful and dangerous, and he was frightened. Fire may have puzzled early man, but we now know that fire is the result of a chemical reaction. When the oxygen in the air combines with carbon and hydrogen in a fuel, a chemical reaction takes place. Energy in the form of heat and light is released in this process. This is what we call fire. Fire must have puzzled the early man, but today we know that fire is a chemical reaction. When oxygen in air combines with carbon and hydrogen in a fuel, chemical reaction takes place. Heat and light energy is released in this process, which we call it fire. Three things are needed to make fire: fuel, oxygen and heat. Wood, coal, cooking gas and petrol are some examples of fuel. Oxygen comes from the air. That is why when you blow on smoldering paper, it often bursts into flame. The third thing needed to make fire is heat. Fuel and oxygen do not make fire by themselves, or else a newspaper or a stick lying in the open would catch fire on its own. To burn a piece of paper or wood, we heat it before it catches fire. Now, let us know about the three things which is needed to make fire. The first one is fuel. For example, wood, coal, cooking gas and petrol. The second one is oxygen, which we get in air. For example, when we blow a smoldering paper, it bursts into flame. And the third thing is fuel. We know that a paper which is in the open air does not catch fire on its own, but when we heat it, then it catches fire. We generally do it with a lighted match. Every fuel has a particular temperature at which it begins to burn. This temperature is called the flash point or kindling temperature of the fuel. It is sometimes said that fire is a good servant but a bad master. It only means that fire is very useful as long as it is kept under control. To light a paper, we use a matchstick. We must also know that fuel has a particular temperature at which it begins to burn. This temperature is called the flash point. We know that fire is a good servant but a bad master. Fire is good when it is under our control. For instance, we use it to cook our food, warm our homes in winter and to generate electricity. But on the other hand, if fire gets out of control, it can be very dangerous. Each year, thousands of homes and shops are damaged by fire. Vast areas of forest are also destroyed and hundreds of people are killed or injured. Fire is used to cook our food, warm our homes in winter and also to generate electricity. But we should also think about the fire when it is out of control. In this case, it will be very dangerous. As we see, every year, thousands of houses and shops gets damaged by fire. Even we should know that the forests are also destroyed of fire and thousands of people are killed. So, we should be very conscious and use the fire in a beneficial way. Just as three things are needed to start a fire, there are three main ways in which a fire can be put out. In each, one of the three things needed for burning is taken away. For example, we can take away the fuel. If the fire has no fuel to feed on, no burning can take place. We often let a fire die out simply by not adding more fuel to it. Already, we have learnt how we can start a fire. Now, let us see the three ways in which fire can be put off. First way. One of the three things which is needed to burn an object is removed. For example, if the fire is burning and there is no fuel to feed on, then the burning will reduce and the fire will be put off. The second way of putting out a fire is to prevent oxygen from reaching it. No supply of oxygen means no fire. Small fires can be put out or smothered with a damp blanket or a sack. This stops oxygen reaching the burning material. Sometimes carbon dioxide is used to extinguish fire. It does not allow oxygen to reach the burning material. Second way. We must prevent oxygen from reaching the fire. If the supply of oxygen stops, then the fire cannot continue to burn. Small fires can be put off with damp blanket or sack. When the damp blanket or sack is placed on the fire, the oxygen gets cut off and the fire stops burning. Even carbon dioxide is used to extinguish fire. It does not allow oxygen to reach the burning material, so the fire stops burning. The third way of putting out a fire is to remove the heat. If the temperature can be brought down below the flash point, the fuel stops burning. You blow on a burning matchstick or a candle to put it out. In doing so, you remove the hot air around the flame, bringing down its temperature below the flash point, and the candle goes out. Sometimes, water is sprayed on a fire. It absorbs heat from the burning fuel and lowers the temperature. The blanket of water also cuts off the supply of oxygen and the fire is extinguished. Third way, we must remove the heat from the burning fuel. For this, the temperature can be brought down below the flash point. Then, the fuel will stop to burn. Let us see an example. When we blow a burning candle or a matchstick, the hot air around the flame is removed. Here, the temperature reduces and when it goes below the flash point, the candle is put off. Next example is when water is sprayed on the fire. It absorbs the heat from the burning material and the fire is put out. Even when a wet blanket is spread onto a burning fire, the supply of oxygen gets cut off and the fire is extinguished. Some fires cannot be put out with water. If water is sprayed onto an oil fire, the oil will float to the top of the water and continue to burn. This can be very dangerous because water can flow quickly, carrying the burning oil with it and spreading the fire. Water should also not be used on fires caused by electrical appliances. The person spraying water might receive an electric shock and be killed. A carbon dioxide extinguisher is the best thing to fight an electrical fire. One important point to be noted is all fires cannot be put off using water. For example, if you put off oil fire using water, it will cause severe damage as the oil will float to the top of the water and continue to burn. This is very dangerous as the water with oil can flow quickly and spread the fire. Water should not be poured on electrical appliances as it may cause electric shock and kill a person. In such cases, we can use a fire extinguisher to put off the fire. We spend millions of rupees each year in fighting fires, and we spend more trying to find new ways of preventing fires from happening and getting out of control. On the whole, we have learned rather well to control fire and put it to good use in our everyday life. Long ago, there were no firemen. When fire broke out, everybody became a firefighter. People formed human chains, they still do if required, and passed buckets of water from a well or a pond to the blaze. At present, millions of rupees is spent for fighting fires. We also spend more money and try to find new ways to prevent fire accidents. We can say that we have learned to control fire and put it to good use in our daily life. In previous days, there were no firemen, but when fire broke out, people themselves formed human chains and passed buckets of water from well or pond to put out the fire. Now, there are laws about building construction which ensure that space is left between buildings to reduce the fire risk. Every new building, especially a public place, must ensure observance of fire prevention norms. Bands of firefighting workers with special equipment known as fire brigades are there to put out fires. Firefighters are highly trained people. They possess many skills. They cut off electricity supply, knock down dangerous walls, spray water and other materials to bring fire under control. At present, laws are implemented in building construction to ensure safety measures. The building is planned in such a way that space is left between buildings to reduce fire risk. Every new building should follow the fire prevention norms. Bands of firefighting workers with special equipment known as fire brigades is used to put out the fire. These workers are trained and they possess many skills. Few works of these workers are: they cut off electric supply, knock down the walls which are in dangerous condition, that is, they are about to fall at any time and may cause damage to the surroundings. They even spray water and other materials to cut off the fire and try to bring it under control. They are also trained in first aid so that they can help people suffering from burns or from the effects of smoke. The discovery of fire and its uses helped early man to cope with nature better and gradually adopt a settled mode of life. Fire is still worshipped in many parts of the world. Fire is indeed a friend, but as we know, it can be a dangerous enemy once it gets out of control. These firefighters are specially trained in first aid and are able to help people suffering from burns or from the effects of smoke. Early man lived with nature and gradually adopted a settled mode of life after the discovery of fire. This is because he understood the need of fire and how it helped them to survive their life. Still, in many parts of the world, fire is worshipped as God. So now we know when fire is used in a proper way, it is our friend. But when it goes out of control, it becomes our enemy. Thus, according to the topic, we say fire as friend and foe.